Thank you very much. We got new people in here. Has anybody seen us do this sign before at conventions? No? Okay, cool. So this is what we did at ACON, and we're doing a new topic today. We're going to be here tomorrow. This is what we do. I walk around wearing this sign, and I get data about non-controversial, controversial issues. I found the most important one now. So this is what we did at ACON. We made the whole panel about it. You can see we've got votes here. We got comments here, starting now and going on for the rest of the convention. This is going to be the topic. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, one of the best games. If you have an opinion about Zelda, come see me and we'll discuss it. Thank you for coming. It is a nice hot day in February here in Texas. I say hot, but I'm wearing my beanie, so it's obviously not that hot. And we're out here in Arlington for the first time for a convention of all places, for Anime North Texas, a little convention here that in some cases will live in the shadow of other bigger anime conventions, but that's not a problem for us because there's no convention too small that we will not take our act. We also stand in the shadow of the future home of the Dallas Renegades of XFL, who will be having their opening day next week, I believe, as of this shooting. By the time this video is up, for all we know, they'll have played their first game and surely be well on their way to a long, long career in the new XFL. And I love being around something like this. I'm a big baseball fan. But today, we're talking about something else that I'm a fan of, and that is The Legend of Zelda. Now, I can't do graphics just yet, but if I can, I would love to put up an image of what I'm describing right now, and if I can't, life will go on. Something we refer to as the Majora's Mask curve, which is this. A game will come out, and it'll get very good reviews, not amazing, but very good. Usually a Zelda game. And then over time, 3 or 4 years down the line, people will start to pick apart that game and talk about how terrible it was and just, oh, look what they did. They betrayed the whole series, the formula, everything was ruined. This game is just terrible. And it sits in a trough. Then a few more years pass, and people start to praise this game for all of its unique qualities and everything that it brought to the table. And it just gets shot through the roof and suddenly becomes revered again, even more so than when it first came out. That is the story of Majora's Mask and its history since its release. And I believe a current game, Skyward Sword, is sitting in its own trough of the Majora's Mask curve. That's where it is right now. And that's where it needs the most defenders. Skyward Sword, The Legend of Zelda, one of the best games. It truly is. But ever since Breath of the Wild came out, people are really turning Skyward Sword into the punching bag of The Legend of Zelda. And as one of my favorite games I have ever played, I am choosing this as an opportunity to stand up and defend this game, and maybe, just maybe, find that there are a lot of reasons why this game is terrible. If we can get somebody who really, really can tell me why this is a terrible statement. It hasn't happened yet, but it might. We've got all day.
Skyward Sword, for better or for worse, was both a failure and a blessing in the sense that it was too linear, yes, but that linearity led to Breath of the Wild, which is the antithesis of a linear experience.
So you're saying it was so bad that it created things that were good. Fair enough.
No, wait, not the Sharpie.
Oh,
Sorry.
right, the sharp. Well, this isn't. this
sorry.
is for paper. I'm not used to using somebody else's pen.
I just barely noticed it was a Sharpie. I was like, oh crap. Thank
I'm
you.
married and a fan of commitment. I was just like, I don't always want to know how a trick works, you know.
I'm sorry.
So if someone were
Sorry, I made you sad.
so if someone were to say something funny, for instance, there we go.
That is a
I love
really
it.
awesome costume.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
What did you think of the Red Mage? Did you ever use the Red Mage a lot?
No, that dirty, rotten red mage. I hate that dirty, rotten red mage. He makes me so angry.
Because he can't decide. Does he want to be a mage? Does he want to be a fighter? Does he want to use black magic? Does he want to use white magic?
He just couldn't really decide. I mean, how hard is it to decide that sort of thing, you know?
I agree. And hope that you avoid him because he'll kill you because you're not nearly
he
strong
killed me
enough.
plenty of times. So
But when you get strong enough, like, did you ever fight the boss in the what is it called where you fight?
So tell me what you think about Skyward Sword.
I think Skyward Sword is actually one of the best Zelda games, and it definitely deserves a remaster. Nintendo, please. Miyamoto, Iwata, Onuma, not Iwata. Onuma, please give it. We need it. It would work so well for the Switch.
I am ready for it. I'm ready to go back to Skyloft. So obviously, so.
But they were like, oh, we're not working on it. But that's what they said about Majora's Mask, and then they announced it. What was it? 2 days or 2 weeks later. So I think it would work.
It's always possible. I never say never when it comes to Nintendo unless it comes to Mother 3.
Chaos, the last boss.
You have a surprising amount of damage.
But the thing is, since he doesn't really what he first is, I think it's black belt and then becomes the master.
I don't know. Off the top of my head,
I think it's.
Yeah.
So I
really hated his one gimmick of stealing stuff. But
Nuke is the best. Like Nuke, you get Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire 3, but Nuke.
I've watched so many even I feel like shit because I know this fool the minute I feel like it is, I almost want to. I feel like the shit is too nice to me.
I smell water on the steps.
For undead, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
The white mage has
I
harm.
can't do any white magic, but I can make the thunder.
Yeah. yes. I would say. What about the thief? Did you like the thief? Because my big problem with the thief is he was so weak that even if you gave him good armor, he would still always get killed by strong enemies. Like, regardless what you did, regardless once he gets his class changed to ninja, he would always get killed. Yeah, I could talk about that game too long.
As we learn.
You have a dizzying amount of knowledge.
Yeah, I have. Well,
I say that Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is one of the best games. I'm guessing you say it's not.
I will say, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, I will agree, it is one of the best games to throw away.
Okay.
Would you like to know my reasoning for it?
I absolutely want to know.
So, you did not have to say that this has to be a factual argument. It's just an argument. Therefore, I would say, out of all of them, it is the only one where I could not. Navi was so much more understanding than that sword.
Say what you want, I can bleep it.
Okay. Navi is so much better to listen. Hey, listen! Hey, over here! That is so much better than, here, let me handhold you through this Zelda game. It was the preface to the Pokemon game where it doesn't let you play Pokemon. It just tells you, here it is. You are going to do exactly what I do because I say it. Skyward Sword handholds you before any of the other games, and it is the closest one that just straightforward handholds you aside from the DS ones. I forget, what was it called?
Phantom Hourglass
yes.
is one, and then Spirit Tracks is the other.
Yeah, Phantom Hourglass, it'll handhold you a bit, but not to the extent of Skyward Sword.
All right, so too much hand-holding. So what you're saying is Fi, who is the Navi from Skyward Sword,
Yes.
the spirit of what would be the Master Sword,
Yes.
handholds you too much, and would you say plays the game for you?
To an extent. I would also, to an extent, mostly because Fi is almost more insistent on you have to listen to what I had to say, even though it's some of the most repetitive stuff you can find.
You say hand-holding, right? But once it's time to fight, you fight, correct?
Yes.
All right. So once it's time to solve a puzzle, you solve it, correct?
Yes. But
Does Fi solve it for you? Is there, for instance, let's say in the new Super Mario Brothers games, there's the super guide, where if a stage is too hard, eventually this block will pop up and will beat the stage for you. Does Skyward Sword have that?
no.
I'm saying that's a fair argument. There is a lot of hand-holding that goes on in Skyward Sword. Fi offers a lot of information all of the time that is always available. But as far as being something so bad that you would throw the game in the trash, a game that IGN scored a perfect 10, by the way. I don't know. I don't know if there's enough handling, because there's lots of games that hold your hand. There are lots of games with tutorials. There are lots of games that, I mean, today that mindset is starting to finally disappear, because I will tell you, at the time, it was getting pretty bad.
Yeah.
I know Twilight Princess holds your hand a lot. I know the tutorial for Twilight Princess lasts like 2 hours.
Is it 2 or is it 2 hours? It is a very long tutorial.
Twilight Princess is a very long tutorial, but once you're out in the world of Skyward Sword, it is one of the most unique settings of any Zelda game ever made. It has some of the most endearing characters of any Zelda game ever made, some of the most inventive puzzles, some of the most unique boss fights, and ultimately one of the best stories with one of the best Zeldas, and one of the best final bosses of any Zelda game against essentially the devil that created Ganon. And I mean, what an epic conclusion to weave this origin of Legend of Zelda. And when it came to beating Ganon, well, if he didn't do that and didn't tell me how to do that, I had to figure that one out on my own. I say Ganon, I meant Demise.
So let me ask you this: you say one of the best stories. What do you say? For what reason do you say it is the best? What is your criteria for best story?
I'll give you one word for why it's one of the best stories. That word is Groose. Groose is easily one of the best characters ever in a Zelda game or in a video game. I'm getting a thumbs up over here. Groose, think about it. You got this character who is this classic Billy Zabka style bully at the beginning of the game. And you hate this guy, this stuck-up douche who thinks he's going to get with Zelda, right? By the end of the game, you are rooting for Groose almost more than you are. He is the most beloved character by the end of the game. And that arc, from most hated to most beloved, I can't think of not just any Zelda game, but any game in general where I've seen a character I hate so much and then love so much at the end. What a story is Groose. The Legend of Groose, he says it himself.
So with that, the Legend of Groose is no longer the Legend of Zelda.
That's, of course, a joke phrase. After you couldn't seal Demise without Groose, and he goes around calling it the Legend of Groose. The Legend of Groose is a microcosm, a small tract of the Legend of Zelda, but once he says the Legend of Groose, me and my wife are just laughing because we just had fallen in love with this guy. His story is almost the game story. The awakening, not just of Groose, but the awakening of all the characters in Skyloft to the world they never knew, the world of the surface, the world they were protected from. Now all of the bird people's eyes are open. And not just Groose. Every character in Skyloft, this Hogwarts of Zelda, has, due to the gratitude crystals, which Fee doesn't help you with at all, you learn about all of them, you learn their loves, you learn their dislikes, and every single person who lives on that island becomes someone you are desperate to protect. So that when at the very end, Girahim, you think you've beaten him. Girahim kidnaps Zelda, takes her to the past, and is like, I'm going to resurrect this anyway. And you've got to go through like 100, 200 moblins, or bokoblins, I believe. You're going to do it because everybody in Skyloft is worth saving at that point.
I'll give you this. The Legend of Groose is the best. Legend of Zelda, not so much.
Okay. All right, we'll take that. Got anything else you need to add? What do you think? We're going to mark you down as a disagree.
I will say I will disagree. But I like your argument. But I'll also say with that, it seems more of you more prefer the Legend of Groose.
That's fair. You know what? I like your argument too. There's a lot of hand-holding in Skyward Sword, and I can see how it got a little rough. Can I get a fist bump? Boom.
I don't think your mind was changed about Skyward Sword. I'm pretty sure your opinion was reconfirmed perhaps, as you see the agrees had it over the disagrees, although it was a pretty close vote. I'd say the agrees won by about 15 maybe.
The disagrees were really angry though.
Yes, they were very angry, especially this one person right here. Look at that. So angry.
I'd only seen 26 episodes though, so I wasn't prepared. Point is, for a lot of people, not me, a lot of people, that was it. They heard that song and they stuck around and they became hyper-aggressive bullies for the remainder of the late 90s.